Hello, welcome. Let's try to solve another Leetcode problem. 1567, maximum length of a subarray with positive product. So for this problem, let me just use the first example. So for example, we have positive 1, negative 2, and negative 3, and 4. And we're going to return the maximum length of a subarray with positive product. So for example, we can find like 1, negative 2, negative 3. So it's gonna be the length gonna be 3, but we can still choose like 1, negative 2, negative 3, and 4. Yeah, so the product is gonna be 24, and it is positive, and the length gonna be 4. So this is gonna be our final result. So it is longer because 4 is more than 3. Yeah, so for this example, there's no 0. So for our testing cases, there can be 0 inside. So what's gonna happen if there's a 0 inside? Yeah. Definitely we need to handle this 0. So let's just maybe use another example. We're gonna have 0 inside. Let's just check what's gonna happen. So maybe we're gonna use 1, negative 2, negative 3, 0, and 4. Yeah. So for us to solve the problem, definitely we're gonna use dynamic programming, and because the product is going to be a positive product. So if the result is going to be a positive product, what's going to happen? So if there are only two numbers, so it can be positive and positive, like 2 times 2. Or it can be negative and negative, like negative 2 times negative 2, it's going to be a positive number. So it can only happen to this kind of situations. So this means if we are going to check the fi, so basically for this fi, it can have two representations. It can be the positive product with the last index I, or it can be the negative index with the index I. So for example, currently instead of using fi, we're going to use a positive I. So this is going to be our dynamic programming. So positive I means at any position at index I for the nums, if it is add with this number. So what's going to be the longest length for this positive I? What's going to be the longest subarray if the final product is going to be positive? So let's just check this negative 3. So what's going to be the longest? Yeah, maybe let's just check 2 first. So what is for this negative 2? So what could be the longest positive subarray, which is adding with this negative 2? So it is 0. Yeah, because for this negative 2, if we were to choose a 1, it is also negative, but we are checking the positive. Yeah, so the length is going to be 0. Yeah, but what about the negative? So if we have a negative, so this is going to be a negative. Yeah, so what about the negative? So if we have the negative I adding with the negative 2, so the length is going to be, yeah, so this is the meaning. So what is the length? The length of the subarray is going to be 1 times negative 2, so it's going to be 2. Yeah, so the negative is going to be 2 and the positive is going to be 0. Now we are checking this number, negative 3. So what's going to happen for this negative 3? So we're going to check the position before it, right? So negative 3, so for this negative 3, definitely this is going to be a negative number. So if it is a negative number, basically I need to check the negative I. So what's going to be the length of the negative I minus 1? If this is a negative I, yeah, so if this is a negative I, so one number before it, it is a negative I minus 1. So the negative I minus 1 gonna be 2. So this means 2 plus 1 gonna be 3. So 3 gonna be the longest length if the longest subarray gonna be a positive product which is adding with this negative 3. Yeah, but currently this is a negative 3. Yeah, so we need to basically we need to check the negative number. Yeah, but for example, if it is a positive number, for example this is a 4, basically we're gonna check the length of the positive number before it and the length of the negative number before it. Yeah, Yeah, so for this example, if it is a negative 3, basically we're gonna check a negative number, because a negative number times negative 3 gonna be a positive number. Yeah, but at the same time, we need to update the negative number. We need to update the negative length. Yeah, so currently for this negative 3, what's gonna be the longest negative length? If we use this negative 2, it's gonna be a positive number. If we still use this one, it's gonna be a positive number. So the negative length is gonna be a 1. So for this negative 3, yeah. Yeah, I think that's all about it. Yeah. Now let's just start solving the problem. So we're going to prepare the length of the nums, and we're going to use the dynamic programming. So we're going to prepare the positive and the negative array. It's going to be 0 times n for the positive array and for the negative DP array. And we also need to prepare the first value. So the positive 0 going to equal to 1 if nums 0 is a positive number. Else, so we're gonna set it as 0, and similarly for the negative 0, we're gonna set it as a 1 if the nums 0 is less than 0. Otherwise, we're gonna set it as 0, and we're gonna prepare the result. So it's gonna be the positive 0. Now we're gonna use a for loop to check. So definitely it's gonna be from 1 to n, because we've already prepared the first number. Now we're gonna loop through for the second number. Basically, we need to have 3 different cases. So if nums I is a positive number, and if nums I is a negative number, else this means nums I gonna equal to 0. So what happens for 0? So this is easy. We just need to set the positive and negative positive I adding with this 0, definitely it's going to be a 0 for the negative I. So both of them we're going to set it as 0. Then we're going to update the result. It's going to be the maximum of the result with the positive I. So basically we're only considering about the positive result, because for the negative result we don't care. We are only caring about the positive result. So this is why we're going to compare with the positive I. So finally we're going to return the result. Yeah. Now it comes to the difficult part. So if this nums is a positive integer, so if it is a positive integer, definitely I'm gonna update the positive I. So gonna equal to the positive I minus 1 plus 1. Yeah. So if it is a negative integer, I'm gonna update the negative I. So basically it's gonna equal to the negative I minus 1, so plus 1. Yeah, because before it is a negative product, so the negative product times this negative number, basically it's going to be a positive number. Yeah. So this means it's going to be a positive number. And this positive number times this positive number, definitely it's going to be a positive number. So this is for more than 0, but we need to update the negative number as well. So the negative number is going to equal to it's going to be negative I minus 1. If this is a negative number times a positive number, definitely it's going to be a negative number. So if negative I minus 1 is more than 0. So if this is 0, yeah, let me just think about it. So here gonna be a little bit difficult. So if it is a positive number, so I just need to update it with the previous one. So the previous one is a positive product, so I just need to plus 1. Yeah, but at the same time I need to update the negative I. Yeah, for the negative array I need to use the negative 1, because for this negative I minus 1 times a positive number, definitely it's going to be a negative number. Yeah. Yeah, so if this negative I minus 1 is more than 0, if the length is more than 0, so definitely I gonna plus 1. So this is gonna be the length of the negative subarray. Otherwise, so if this negative I minus 1 is 0, so for example, yeah, if this negative I minus 1, if this is a 0, and currently I have a positive number 1, so what's gonna be the negative I? Definitely it's gonna be, yeah, it's gonna be 0, because I cannot have a length like 1 times 0. I cannot let it become a negative number, definitely. So if I cannot do that, what I gonna do? I gonna set it as 0. So the length gonna be 0 if I'm adding with this one, but before the product is gonna be 0. Yeah. And similarly, we're gonna update the negative I from here. Yeah. So if the current number is a negative number, so I'm gonna update the positive number. So the positive number gonna equal to the negative I minus 1 plus 1. Yeah. At the same time, I'm gonna update the negative number. Yeah. So for the negative number, I'm gonna use the positive. I'm gonna use the positive DP array to update it. So it's gonna be positive I minus 1 plus 1, because the positive number times a negative number. That's basically it's gonna be a negative number. Yeah, it can be the longest negative number. So if positive I minus 1 is more than 0, else I'm gonna set it as 0. So here gonna be the same idea. I think that's all about it. So if it is a negative number, definitely I don't want to find the positive number. Yeah, so I can use the negative previous number. If it is a negative product, so it's gonna times this negative value, it's gonna be a positive. So this is gonna be the longest result. But this is a positive result. At the same time, I need to update the negative result. So for the negative result, so I have to use a positive I minus 1 times the current nums I. So this is why positive I minus 1 plus 1. If this is more than 0, otherwise I'm going to set it as 0. Now let me just submit it to Zack, run it to Zack. Yeah, as you can see, it works. Now let me just submit it. Yeah, so here is just some mathematical calculations. We just need to understand how to update the positive number and the negative number. But for here, I think it's gonna be easy. This is not okay. Let me think about it. So I'm gonna set the length of the nums and the positive and the negative DP array. So I'm gonna prepare the first position, positive 0 equals to 1 if nums 0 is more than is a positive number, else I'm gonna set it as 0. So similarly for the negative 0, if this is less than 0, I'm gonna set it as 1 for the negative length, otherwise I'm gonna set it as 0. So this is my result. And let me just check again for the positive number. So if this is a positive number, so the positive I gonna equal to the positive I minus 1 plus 1, and at the same time I'm gonna update the negative I, so it's gonna be the negative I minus 1 plus 1 if this is more than 0, otherwise I'm gonna set it as 0. Yeah, and here as this is a current number is a negative number, so basically, yeah, I need to use the negative I minus 1. Yeah, maybe I did something wrong. So for the negative number, it's going to be the positive number plus a 1. Yeah, this is a little bit confusing. Sometimes we don't know how to check. So for the positive number, it's going to be a negative plus 1 if negative I minus 1 is more than 0. Otherwise, I'm gonna use a 0. For the negative, it's going to be a positive I minus 1 plus 1. Yeah. So I changed it from this. So I still don't understand why. Yeah, because basically we can write everything about it. So for example, here we can still check that. So for the positive number, it's going to be a negative number plus 1 if this is more than 0. And similarly for the negative number, it's going to be a positive. Yeah, because this can never be 0. Yeah, so this is why. So because if my current number is a negative number, so for the negative I, it's going to be at least 1. That is why we cannot set it as 0. We can write it like this, maybe if the positive I minus 1, which is more than 0, so else we cannot use 0. Yeah, let me just try. Yeah, we cannot use 0. Yeah, because for here, because this is a negative number, it's going to be at least 1. Yeah, so if the positive is more than 0, otherwise we're going to set it as 1. We can write it like this. Yeah, yeah, now as you can see it works. Yeah, but yeah, because this else is a 1, definitely we don't need it. Yeah, so even if we delete it, it is okay because this value is going to be at least 1. Yeah, because positive I minus 1 going to be a value more than or equal to 0. It can never be a negative value. So that is why we don't need to do such kind of check. And similarly for here. Yeah. So if the positive I minus 1 is more than 0, otherwise what we can do, we're gonna set it as 1. Yeah. We can write it like this, but it is not necessary. Now let me just submit it to check if it works. Yeah, now as you can see it works, and I think the speed is pretty fast because the time complexity is O(n) because we are using dynamic programming. Now what are we gonna do? We can delete these settings because it is not necessary. Yeah, because for this number positive I minus 1, it's gonna be a value more than or equal to 0. So this means if my positive I minus 1 is 0, definitely the result is gonna be 1. So it is result is 1. It is here for the else part. If my positive I minus 1 is a positive value, definitely it's going to be the positive I minus 1 plus 1. Yeah. So this means from here I can delete it because it is exactly the same thing. And here also the same thing. So that is why I can delete it. And we can understand it like that.